We are told that the people of the past were ruled by fear, that superstition clouded their judgment, that they saw monsters where there were none. But in 2023, archaeologists in Poland opened a grave, and what they found inside stopped them cold. Not a weapon, not treasure, a padlock, fastened to the leg of a buried child. Closed, deliberate, placed there by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. This was not ignorance. This was a warning. The question is, what were they trying to keep inside? Most people assume the oldest things on Earth are gone. They're not. And what's left behind, buried in a corner of Greenland most people will never visit. Maybe rewriting everything we thought we knew about how life began. Picture this. A rock formation in southwestern Greenland. Ancient beyond measure. Not hundreds of millions of years old. Not a billion. Try 3.7 to 3.8 billion years old. That number is hard to hold in your head. So let's put it in perspective. When this rock formed, the Earth had no oxygen, no complex life, no oceans as we'd recognize them. The sky would have looked alien. The planet itself was still figuring out what it wanted to be. And yet, this formation survived all of it. Still there, exposed, accessible, and in certain critical ways, not fully understood. But here's where it gets strange. The rock has been through hell, tectonic movement, extreme heat, pressure events lasting hundreds of millions of years. The kind of forces that should erase everything, every signature, every trace of what came before. And yet, beneath all of that, researchers have found something they weren't expecting. Chemical signatures. Specific carbon isotope ratios locked inside the rock that, under normal circumstances, should not have survived. Let that sink in. The information is still there. Compressed, altered, but not erased. Think of it like a hard drive that's been through a fire. The casing is melted, the plastic is gone, but somewhere inside, fragments of the original data are still legible. That's what scientists are working with here. This is where the story gets complicated. Those carbon isotope ratios? Some researchers believe they're consistent with biological processing, meaning life, or something functioning like it, at a time when the planet was, by most scientific measures, still uninhabitable. Now, that interpretation is contested heavily. This is not settled science. But here's the thing that keeps researchers up at night. The debate isn't about whether the ratios exist. They do. Everyone agrees on that. The debate is about how they got there, and whether the geological explanations proposed to explain them are actually sufficient. No one has fully resolved that. Not yet. And something doesn't add up about the early research. The scientists who first examined this site were working with incomplete tools. They admitted as much. Early assessments were made with methods that, by today's standards, were too blunt to capture what was really there. Their conclusions were revised. Then the revisions were revised. Then those revisions were qualified. Imagine trying to read a book through frosted glass, using a flashlight with dying batteries. Every new generation of researchers gets slightly better equipment, and slightly sharper edges emerge from the blur. What they're slowly uncovering is this: the formation behaves less like a relic and more like a record, one that has been partially overwritten but not completely. The question researchers keep returning to is a simple one. What was written first? And the deeper you go into that question, the bigger it gets. Because if the earliest conditions for life on this planet left a trace that survived 3.7 billion years of geological chaos, altered, compressed, buried, then one of our most comfortable assumptions collapses. The assumption that origins are inaccessible, that the beginning is gone, that we simply can't know. That assumption may be wrong. And if it's wrong here in this formation, it raises a quieter and more unsettling possibility. That other things we've assumed are erased aren't. That the early Earth was capable of things we haven't fully accounted for. That possibility hasn't been dismissed. It's been noted, studied carefully, and then set aside, pending further analysis. Analysis that, in some cases, has been pending for decades. The rock is still there. The questions are still open. And the tools needed to fully read it, to truly penetrate what's preserved inside, are only now beginning to catch up to what the rock is holding. We tend to think of the ancient past as something sealed, finished, beyond reach. But the oldest surviving surface on this planet is still being decoded. Right now, with instruments that didn't exist 10 years ago, by researchers who know they're close to something and aren't yet sure what it is. The beginning of life on Earth may not be a mystery buried in the past. It may be a message we're only just learning how to read. We treat electricity like a human invention. We built the generators. We strung the wires. We flipped the switch. But what if the planet was already doing this silently, continuously, for billions of years before we arrived? Quartz, one of the most common minerals on Earth. It's in riverbeds, mountain ranges, desert floors, deep crustal formations, every continent, everywhere. And quartz has one property most people learn once and never think about again. When you apply mechanical pressure to a quartz crystal, it generates an electric charge. This isn't fringe science. It's the same principle that runs your wristwatch, your ultrasound machine, your phone's timing circuits. It's called the piezoelectric effect, and it is extraordinarily well understood. What is not well understood is what it means for a living, restless planet that has been squeezing quartz for billions of years. The Earth has never been still. Tectonic plates grind against each other. Glaciers press down with incomprehensible weight. Earthquakes send shockwaves through hundreds of kilometers of rock. Every single one of those forces acts on quartz-bearing rock, constantly, at a scale no laboratory has ever come close to replicating. We know the mechanism. We've known it for over a century. We just haven't asked what it means at planetary scale. And the field evidence is harder to dismiss than most people realize. Researchers near fault lines have recorded electromagnetic readings that spike before seismic events, not during, before. Unusual charge distributions found in rock cores pulled from high-stress zones. These have been logged, reviewed, published, and in most cases filed away, not exhaustively investigated. The possibility being set aside that a geological formation under sustained tectonic stress isn't passive rock, it's an active electrical system. Not metaphorically, measurably. If the planet has been running this mechanism, mechanical pressure converting to electrical charge, continuously across every tectonically active region for billions of years, where did that energy go? What did it interact with? Groundwater? Atmospheric chemistry? Early biological systems? We don't know. And the unsettling part isn't the uncertainty. It's how little effort has gone into resolving it. Electricity as a technology is 2 centuries old. Electricity as a planetary condition is as old as the rock itself. The processes haven't stopped. The tectonic plates are still moving. The quartz is still under pressure. The charge is still accumulating. Right now, beneath everything. In 2023, archaeologists in Poland opened a grave. What they found inside wasn't just a body. It was a lock, closed, secured to the leg of a child. And the people who put it there weren't monsters. They were terrified. Picture a small rural village. 17th century Poland. No germ theory. No understanding of why some seasons half your neighbors die and others don't. Just pattern recognition and fear. The child had been placed face down, not a standard position for the period. A closed padlock fastened to the leg. A triangular iron implement near the foot. None of this was accidental. Every object, every placement, deliberate, and this wasn't a one-off. Similar burials documented across Central and Eastern Europe from the same era. Different villages, different families, same fear. What were they so afraid of? The answer is more rational than you'd expect. This period was defined by epidemic disease, tuberculosis, cholera, moving through rural populations like slow fire, killing unpredictably in clusters. Communities could see the pattern. They just couldn't explain it. And then came the exhumations. Bodies were sometimes dug up for religious reasons for reburial. And what people found didn't always match expectations. Some bodies appeared to retain unusual color. Some showed what looked like blood. Some seemed to still be in the process of something. Before germ theory, the conclusion wasn't unreasonable. If disease spreads through a family after a death, and the body shows no signs of fully stopping, maybe the dead are the source. The padlock wasn't superstition. Within its own logic, it was a containment measure. We tend to look at practices like this and see failure of reason. But consider the position these communities were actually in. They watched disease move through families in sequence. They had no concept of bacterial transmission. They did have direct observation of who died, in what order, and what the bodies looked like afterward. They constructed an explanatory model from that data. It was wrong, but it wasn't irrational. What we call superstition is often just pre-scientific systems logic, applied carefully, seriously to real and terrifying problems. The problem was real. People were dying. The solution was wrong, but the reasoning was human. The padlock is in a laboratory now, cleaned, cataloged, studied by researchers whose questions have nothing to do with the ones it was placed there to answer. We know more than they did. We have germ theory, epidemiology, centuries of accumulated science. And yet the impulse to contain what we don't understand, to put a lock on what frightens us, that hasn't disappeared. It's just changed shape. The padlock failed at its original purpose, but it preserved something else, a record of what it looks like when people face death without the tools to explain it and refuse to do nothing. That's not a relic. That's a mirror.